Welcome back everyone to the Hello World Guy, and this is another episode of the SFML Dodger game series. And in this video we are gonna create a window and make a circle in it to kind of test our how SFML is working. So we set it up in the last video, so now we are gonna actually use that. And we created a window in the last video, and if I start the game, what you should see is that the window opens, and then it as soon as the window opens, yeah, you can see a small window popped up and then it immediately closed. And since this is obviously SFML, we have got a separate window because we are gonna put graphics in it, not just plain text. So in order to do that, we need to, the reason it's closing is because we are not actually our program starts, creates the window, and then it ends. So we need to kind of continue our program until the operating system is sending us messages. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and say while, alright, and I'm gonna go ahead and say window dot is open. So is open, so while the window is open we are gonna continue our program, and our program is only going to end when we close the window, and when we close the window is up to us. Now in here, if I start the program now, what you should see is that nothing actually happens, and our window should pop up and it should be kind of be fine, but it will give an error. It will give an error saying that this window, you can see it's completely like doing this, and you can't move it, you can't close, start, minimize anything, and it is basically not responding. So this program is not responding. Now obviously I can actually like shut the program down from here. Why is it not responding is because our operating system is constantly sending us messages, but we are not actually getting any of them. So in order to get the message, all you need to go ahead and say window.poll event. So the operating system is sending events to each window, and this is this will give us an event. So I'm gonna have an event here, create a variable of type sf colon colon event. So say sf colon colon event, and I'm gonna call it e, and let's just go ahead and give our e here. Alright, now if I do that and I start again, now you should see is that something has changed, and our cursor should not be like going load and load again, but instead it's actually working. Now obviously pressing close, maximize works, but pressing minimize also works, but pressing close does not work, because close is not automatically like implemented, you need to implement it separately. And in order to do that, all you need to do is go and if when you say e dot type, so go ahead and say e dot type is equal to sf colon colon event colon colon closed. Then this means that we are pressing the closed button, so just go ahead and say sf dot oh sorry, not sf, window dot close. So window dot close, and once you do that, it should actually make our window closing mechanism work quite easily. So let's do and do it. And you can see if I minimize my window it works, and if I close my window it also works. And our program also ends when we close the window, because we are basically making our program run as long as the window is open. So yeah, this is basically we have got a basic window up and running. Now there is a problem in our current way of implementation, which is that we are only polling one event, but our program might be getting many events. So how we need to kind of take all of the events and not just one event. In order to do that, just go ahead and say while. We need to add another while loop inside here, and this returns true or false depending on whether we are getting an event or not. So while we are polling the event, we are gonna handle each of the events here. So you can actually press alt and move your up arrow to actually move these lines of code here, and I'm gonna do this. Alright, and you just retype the semicolon, it should automatically indent everything. Now that would actually work better, because we can now kind of get all of the events that our program is receiving and not just one event. And what you should see is that it kind of works correctly now. But obviously our window is currently empty, so how are we gonna put something inside of the window? Well, for that, unfortunately, we have not got the library that is required to actually do that kind of stuff currently in our program. So go under the project properties here, and if you remember in the last video, we put our like in input we put a bunch of different libraries here. You need to add another one of here these here called SFML graphics lib, yeah, just that, and put a semicolon after that, and go ahead and say okay. Now let's go ahead and start, and nothing is gonna change right now, because obviously we have not changed our program, we have just got more data here. But what we can do is we can change this window from a just a window to a something like a render window, which is a window which you can actually display some cool stuff inside of it, and it's just not just an empty window. Now with this window we have got, basically we have got essentially we have got a window that can display color and stuff and pictures and different kind of things into it. So in order to display that, you must first of all, and this is a loop, so each program runs in a loop. This is our main game loop, and for first thing you need to do is you need to go ahead and clear the window. Now each time this loop runs, each frame basically, so one loop is called a frame, and each frame you must like go ahead and clear the whole window and then just redraw it. Now when you go ahead and say clear, what you should see is that now our window, instead of being white or like some other color, it's now always gonna be completely black. No, wow, not black. Alright, let's that's a bit weird. And even though it should be black, okay, the reason it's not black is because we are only clearing the window, but we are not actually displaying it. So you need to go ahead and say window.display in the end. Now these two are gonna be in each of your programs. You can't just live without them. You need to clear everything and then display it in the end, but between these you can basically draw whatever you would like. So yeah, if I run the program now, what you can see is the window is now black. Well, that's pretty awesome. Now let's go ahead and actually try to draw something inside of the window, but first let's learn how to change the color of the window. When we are doing this, it's essentially SFML has got a special kind of class in the SF namespace called color. So you can basically go ahead and create a color by calling a direct constructor here, and you can provide it with RGB values. For example, you can say 255 on the red, and 255 on the green, and 0 on the blue, and just do that. You can leave the alpha for now, and what you should see is that we've got a different colored window now. And if you don't provide this argument, it will take black as default. Now we have got yellow, but I'm gonna actually not put yellow here, but instead put a soft kind of color here, 255, and then I'm gonna make it less saturated by going ahead and changing this from 255 to something like 150, and it should make it give us some kind of low saturated kind of cooling color, and yeah, that is kind of like almost like sky. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. So we've got our color done. Now we're gonna actually draw something inside of this window. Pretty awesome. Now doing that is actually pretty simple. Now if you go ahead and say create a variable of type, we're gonna create a variable of type circle shape. So this is essentially like the name says, it's a circle, and let's call it just circle. And if I call the constructor, you can see we have got a couple of constructors here. Obviously you can just kind of like leave it empty, but that won't work. What you need to do is you need to provide it with a radius. So you can say something like 50, 60 actually, and you can give it a point count as well, but we are gonna remove the just leave that, just put a like a radius here, and in here just go ahead and say window dot draw, and just pass it the circle as an argument. Just say circle, and that will draw the circle to the window, and what you should see is that we get a circle inside of the window. Pretty awesome. So let's see. Yeah, it's kind of working, and you can see we get a white circle in here, which obviously is not that nice. We want it to be in the center, and I want it to be something like red. So how can we actually change that? Now it's pretty simple. You can actually just go ahead and say circle dot set fill color, and you can set the color to be a SF colon color. So just say SF colon color, and obviously the SF is a namespace. You can actually use that as well, like you use STD, but I'm actually not going to do that and kind of go along with it this way. And I want it to be red but not completely saturated, so I'm gonna add 50 and 50 of the other ones here as well, and then I'm gonna do this. And obviously you can kind of get this color from an online color picker and then put the RGB values if you can't understand how this thing works. So with that done, we can now run the program, and you should see that I do get it to kind of get a red circle. But what we want is we want the red circle to be in the center of the screen. So how are we gonna center it? Well, if you go ahead and say circle dot set position, like that. And you can see that it asks you to give a something called an sf colon colon vector to f. Now what is a vector is, you should know, is a basically like a kind of it's like a couple of values, so together it's like one value, two values or three values like together, which gives a dimension. And vector 2 means this is a 2D vector, which means it's got an x-axis and a y-axis. And f means that it will take floats and values. You can obviously provide it with d, which means doubles, or I, which means integers. Yeah, you can do that, but you need to provide it with an f1 for now. And since we are having a 320 by 320 window, or maybe let's actually change the size. Let's change it to 500 by 500. Yeah, like that, or maybe 600, why not? 600 by 600. So for that, it should be 300 by 300 should be the middle of the screen. So if I start that now, what you should see is that our circle is moved, but it's not exactly moved to where we want, but instead it's a little bit to here. The reason is that the circle actually starts at the corner, so the origin of the circle, where the position is actually in the corner around here, but not in the center. Now how to fix that? You can actually change the origin of the circle as well, but you can also kind of like subtract 30 from here, because the actually not 30, 60 from here. Since the radius of the circle is 60, you can just subtract the radius, and what you should see is that now our circle is completely centered and it's also red. Yeah, like that. And you can obviously increase this to something like 200. Maybe that would be too much, but still, let's do 150 actually. 150. And we will need to obviously replace all of this. So this is a bit of a tiring task, but we will learn better ways to kind of handle this kind of situation as we go along. But for now, we have got our Windows program basically working. So let's try this one final time. And yeah, if it actually works. Okay, so you can see we have got a red circle behind a blue background in the center of the screen. Pretty awesome. So yeah, this is pretty much it for this video. In the next video, we are actually gonna try to start making our game. So make sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned for that, and share this video with other people, and bye.